Seychelles, officially the Republic of Seychelles, is an archipelago and country in the Indian Ocean, the 115-island country, whose capital is Victoria, lies 1,500 kilometres east of mainland East Africa. Other nearby island countries and territories include Comoros, Mayotte, Madagascar, Union and Mauritius to the south. Seychelles, with a population of roughly 93,000, has the smallest population of any independent African state. However, it does have a larger population than the British Overseas Territory Saint Helena, Ascension and Tristan. Cunha. History. The Seychelles were uninhabited throughout most of recorded history. Some scholars assume that Austronesian seafarers and later Maldivian and Arab traders were the first to visit the uninhabited Seychelles. The earliest recorded sighting by Europeans took place in 1502 by the Portuguese admiral Vasco da Gama, who passed through the Emirantes and named them after himself. The earliest recorded landing was in January 1609, by the crew of the Ascension, under Captain Sharpe during the fourth voyage of the British East India Company, a transit point for trade between Africa and Asia. The islands were occasionally used by pirates until the French began to take control starting in 1756 when a stone of possession was laid by Captain Nicolas Morphy. The islands were named after Jean Moreau de Seychelles, Louis XV's a Minister of Finance. The British controlled the islands between 1794 and 1810. Jean-Baptiste Quaid de Quincy, French administrator of Seychelles during the years of war with the United Kingdom, declined to resist when armed enemy warships arrived. Instead, he successfully negotiated the status of capitulation to Britain, which gave the settlers a privileged position of neutrality. Britain eventually assumed full control upon the surrender of Mauritius in 1810, formalized in 1814 at the Treaty of Paris. Seychelles became a crown colony separate from Mauritius in 1903. Elections were held in 1966 and 1970. Independence was granted in 1976 as a republic within the Commonwealth. In the 1970s, Seychelles was the place to be seen, a playground for film stars and the international jet set. In 1977, a coup d'état by France Albert René ousted the first president of the republic, James Mancham. René discouraged over-dependence on tourism and declared that he wanted to keep the Seychelles for the Seychellois. The 1979 constitution declared a socialist one-party state, which lasted until 1991. In the 1980s there were a series of coup attempts against President France Albert René, some of which were supported by South Africa. In 1981, Michael led a team of 43 South African mercenaries masquerading as holidaying rugby players in a coup attempt in what is known as the Seychelles affair. There was a gun battle at the airport, and most of the mercenaries later escaped in a hijacked Air India plane. The leader of this hijacking was the infamous German mercenary D. Clodo, a former member of the Rhodesian Shash. Clodo later stood trial in South Africa as well as in his home country Germany for air piracy. In 1986, an attempted coup led by the Seychelles Minister of Defense, Ogilvy Burlouis, caused President René to request assistance from India. In Operation Flowers Are Blooming, the Indian naval vessel Ins Vindhyagiri arrived in Port Victoria to help avert the coup. The first draft of a new constitution failed to receive the requisite 60% of voters in 1992, but an amended version was approved in 1993. In January 2013, Seychelles declared a state of emergency. The tropical cyclone Phelang caused torrential rain, and flooding and landslides destroyed hundreds of houses. Politics. The Seychelles president, who is head of state and head of government, is elected by popular vote for a 5-year term of office. The cabinet is presided over and appointed by the president, subject to the approval of a majority of the legislature. The unicameral Seychellois Parliament, the National Assembly or Assemblée Nationale, consists of 34 members, 25 of whom are elected directly by popular vote, while the remaining 9 seats are appointed proportionally according to the percentage of votes received by each party. All members serve 5-year terms. The Supreme Court of Seychelles, created in 1903, is the highest trial court in Seychelles and the first court of appeal from all the lower courts and tribunals. The highest court of law in Seychelles is the Seychelles Court of Appeal, which is the court of final appeal in the country. Political culture. Seychelles' previous president Albert René came to power after his supporters overthrew the first president James Manchem on 5 June 1977 in a coup d'état and installed him as president. René was at the time the prime minister. René ruled as a strongman under a socialist one-party system until in 1993, when he was forced to introduce a multi-party system. During his tenure, he was accused of involvement in criminal activity. U.S. Ambassador to Seychelles David Fisher has stated publicly that René was complicit in money laundering and murder, among other things. He stepped down in 2004 in favor of his vice president, James Michel, who was re-elected in 2006 and again in 2011. The primary political parties of the ruling Socialist People's Party, known until 2009 as the Seychelles People's Progressive Front, and the socially liberal Seychelles National Party. Foreign relations. Seychelles is a member of the African Union, the Francophone Indian Ocean Commission, La Francophonie, the Southern African Development Community, and the Commonwealth. Administrative divisions. Seychelles is divided into 26 administrative regions that comprise all of the inner islands. 8 of the districts make up the capital of Seychelles and are referred to as Greater Victoria. Another 14 districts are considered the rural part of the main island of Mayotte, with 2 districts on Praslin and 1 on Le Digue, which also includes respective satellite islands. The rest of the outer islands of the last district, recently created by the Tourism Ministry. Geography. An island nation, Seychelles is located in the Indian Ocean, northeast of Madagascar and about 1,600 kilometers east of Kenya. The archipelago consists of 115 islands. The majority of the islands are uninhabited, with many dedicated as nature reserves. The islands, as per the constitution, are divided into groups as follows. There are 45 granite-based islands known as the Granitic Seychelles. These are in descending order of size: Mayotte, Praslin, Silhouette Island, Le Digue, Curieuse, Felicity, Frégate, Sainte-Anne, North, Surf, Marie-Ange, Grande Sœur, Thérèse, Aride, Conception, Petite Sœur, Cousin, Long, Ear, Cute, Cif, Round, Anonyme, Mammals, Moyenne, Eden, Isle Soleil, Romanville, Isle aux Aix Marines, Lislet, Beacon, Cachet, Cocos, Round, Lalotte, Frégate, Booby, Chauve-Saurus, Isle Lafouche, Hodel, Lalotte, Rat, Saurus, Street, Pierre, Zave, Harrison Rocks. There are 2 coral sandcays north of the Granitics, Dennis and Bird. There are 2 coral islands south of the Granitics, Coativi and Platte. There are 29 coral islands in the Amirantes group, west of the Granitics: Desroches, Poivre Atoll, Alphonse, Daros, St. Joseph Atoll, Marie-Louise, Desneufs, African Banks, Raymar, Street, François, Bouders, Atoile, Bijoutier. There are 13 coral islands in the Farquhar group, south-southwest of the Amirantes: Farquhar Atoll, Providence Atoll and St. Pierre. There are 67 raised coral islands in the Aldabra group, west of the Farquhar group. Aldabra Atoll, Ascension Island, Estove and Cosmoledo Atoll, Isle Nord-Est, Isle du Trou, Gerlitz, Grand Polite, Petit Polite, Grand Isle, Pagode, Isle du Sud-Ouest, Isle aux Moustiques, Isle Baleine, Isle aux Chauves-Souris, Isle aux Macaques, Isle aux Rats, Isle du Nord-Ouest, Isle Observation, Isle Sud-Est and Isle Haute-Laquois. Climate. The climate is equable although quite humid, as the islands are small, classified by Köppen Geiger system as tropical rainforest. The temperature varies little throughout the year. Temperatures on Mahé vary from 24 to 30 degrees Celsius, and rainfall ranges from 2,900 mm annually at Victoria to 3,600 mm on the mountain slopes. Precipitation is somewhat less on the other islands. During the coolest months, July and August, the average low is about 24 degrees Celsius. The southeast trade winds blow regularly from May to November, and this is the most pleasant time of the year. The hot months are from December to April, with higher humidity. March and April are the hottest months, but the temperature seldom exceeds 31 degrees Celsius. Most of the islands lie outside the cyclone belt, so high winds are rare. Wildlife environmental legislation is very strict, and every tourism project must undergo an environmental review and a lengthy process of consultations with the public and conservationists. Seychelles is a world leader in sustainable tourism. The end result of this sustainable development is an intact and stable natural environment, which attracts financially strong visitors rather than short-term mass tourism. Since 1993, a law guarantees the citizens the right to a clean environment and at the same time obliges them to protect this environment. The country holds a record for the highest percentage of land under natural conservation, nearly 50% of the total land area. Like many fragile island ecosystems, Seychelles saw the loss of biodiversity when humans first settled in the area, including the disappearance of most of the giant tortoises from the Granitic Islands, the felling of coastal and mid-level forests, and the extinction of species such as the chestnut-flanked white-eye, the Seychelles parakeet, and the saltwater crocodile. However, extinctions were far fewer than on islands such as Mauritius or Hawaii, partly due to a shorter period of human occupation. Seychelles today is known for success stories in protecting its flora and fauna. The rare Seychelles black parrot, the national bird of the country, is now protected. The Granitic Islands of Seychelles are home to about 75 endemic plant species, with a further 25 species in the Aldabra group. Particularly well known is the coco de mer, a species of palm that grows only on the islands of Praslin and neighboring Curies, sometimes nicknamed the love nut because of the shape of its fruit, which, with the husk removed, presents a double coconut resembling buttocks. The coco de mer produces the world's heaviest seed pods. The jellyfish tree is to be found in only a few locations on Mahé. This strange and ancient plant in a genus of its own has resisted all efforts to propagate it. Other unique plant species include the Wright's gardenia, found only on a Ride Island Special Reserve. The freshwater crab genus Seychellum is endemic to the Granitic Seychelles, and a further 26 species of crabs and 5 species of hermit crabs live on the islands. The Aldabra giant tortoise now populates many of the islands of Seychelles. The Aldabra population is the largest in the world. These unique reptiles can be found even in captive herds. It has been reported that the Granitic Islands of Seychelles supported distinct species of Seychelles giant tortoises. The status of the different populations is currently unclear. There are several unique varieties of orchids on the islands. Seychelles hosts some of the largest seabird colonies in the world. The outer islands of Aldabra and Cosmoledo are home to the largest numbers. In Granitic Seychelles, the largest numbers are on Orchid Island, including the world's largest numbers of 2 species. The sooty terns also breed on the islands. The marine life around the islands, especially the more remote coral islands, can be spectacular. More than 1,000 species of fish have been recorded. Environmental issues. Since the use of spear guns and dynamite for fishing was banned through efforts of local conservationists in the 1960s, the wildlife is unafraid of snorkelers and divers. Coral bleaching in 1998 has damaged most reefs, but some reefs show healthy recovery. Despite huge disparities across nations, Seychelles claims to have achieved nearly all of its Millennium Development Goals. 17 MDGs and 169 targets have been achieved. Environmental protection is becoming a cultural value. The government's Seychelles Climate Guide describes the nation's climate as rainy, with a dry season with an ocean economy in the ocean regions. The southeast trade is on the decline but still fairly strong. Reportedly, weather patterns there are becoming less predictable. Population demographics. When the British gained control of the islands during the Napoleonic Wars, they allowed the French upper class to retain the land. Both the French and British settlers used enslaved Africans, and although the British prohibited slavery in 1835, African workers continued to come. Thus the Grand Plan of French origin dominated economic and political life. The British administration employed Indians on indentured servitude to the same degree as in Mauritius, resulting in a small Indian population. The Indians, like a similar minority of Chinese, were confined to a merchant class. Through harmonious socio-economic policies and developments over the years, today Seychelles is described as a fusion of peoples and cultures. Numerous Seychellois are considered multiracial, blending from African, Asian and European descent to create a modern Creole culture. Evidence of this harmonious blend is also revealed in Seychellois food, incorporating various aspects of French, Chinese, Indian and African cuisine. As the islands of Seychelles had no indigenous population, the current Seychellois are composed of people who have immigrated. The largest ethnic groups were those of African, French, Indian and Chinese descent. French and English are official languages along with Seychellois Creole, which is primarily based upon French, yet nowadays is often laced with English words and phrases. The median age of the Seychellois was 32 years. Religion. According to the 2010 census, most Seychellois are Christians. 76.2% were Roman Catholic, pastorally served by the exempt Diocese of Port Victoria of Seychelles. 10.6% were Protestant. Hinduism is practiced by 2.4% and Islam by 1.6%. Other non-Christian faiths accounted for 1.1% of the population, while a further 5.9% were non-religious or did not specify a religion. Economy. During the plantation era, cinnamon, vanilla and copra were the chief exports. In 1965, during a 3-month visit to the islands, futurist Donald Prell prepared for the then Crown Colony Governor-General an economic report containing a scenario for the future of the economy. Quoting from his report, in the 1960s, about 33% of the working population worked at plantations, and 20% worked in the public or government sector. The Indian Ocean tracking station on Mayotte was closed in August 1996 after the Seychelles government attempted to raise the rent to more than $10 million per year. Since independence in 1976, per capita output has expanded to roughly 7 times the old near-subsistence level. Growth has been led by the tourist sector, which employs about 30% of the labor force, compared to agriculture, which today employs about 3% of the labor force. Despite the growth of tourism, farming and fishing continue to employ some people, as do industries that process coconuts and vanilla. As of 2013, the main export products are processed fish and non-fillet frozen fish. The prime agricultural products currently produced in Seychelles include sweet potatoes, vanilla, coconuts and cinnamon. These products provide much of the economic support of the locals. Frozen and canned fish, copra, cinnamon and vanilla are the main export commodities. Since the worldwide economic crises of 2008, the Seychelles government has prioritized a curbing of the budget deficit, including the containment of social welfare costs and further privatization of public enterprises. The government has a pervasive presence in economic activity, with public enterprises active in petroleum product distribution, banking, imports of basic products, telecommunications and a wide range of other businesses. According to the 2013 Index of Economic Freedom, which measures the degree of limited government, market openness, regulatory efficiency, rule of law, and other factors, economic freedom has been increasing each year since 2010. The national currency of Seychelles is the Seychelles rupee. Initially tied to a basket of international currencies, it was depegged and allowed to be devalued and float freely in 2008 on the presumed hopes of attracting further foreign investment in the Seychelles economy. Tourism in 1971, with the opening of Seychelles International Airport, tourism became a significant industry, essentially dividing the economy into plantations and tourism. The tourism sector paid better, and the plantation economy could only expand so far. The plantation sector of the economy declined in prominence, and tourism became the primary industry of Seychelles. In recent years, the government has encouraged foreign investment to upgrade hotels and other services. These incentives have given rise to an enormous amount of investment in real estate projects and new resort properties, such as Project Time, distributed by the World Bank, along with its predecessor Project Magic. Despite its growth, the vulnerability of the tourist sector was illustrated by the sharp drop in 1991–1992 due largely to the Gulf War. Since then, the government has moved to reduce the dependence on tourism by promoting the development of farming, fishing, small-scale manufacturing and most recently the offshore financial sector, through the establishment of the Financial Services Authority and the enactment of several pieces of legislation. During March 2015, Seychelles allocated Ascension Island to be developed by India Energy. Although multinational oil companies have explored the waters around the islands, no oil or gas has been found. In 2005, a deal was signed with U.S. firm PetroQuest, giving it exploration rights to about 30,000 square kilometers around Constant Topaz, Farquhar and Coativy Islands until 2014. Seychelles imports oil from the Persian Gulf in the form of refined petroleum derivatives at the rate of about 5,700 barrels per day. In recent years, oil has been imported from Kuwait and also from Bahrain. Seychelles imports 3 times more oil than is needed for internal uses because it re-exports the surplus oil in the form of bunker for ships and aircraft, calling it hay. There are no refining capacities on the islands. Oil and gas imports, distribution and re-export are the responsibility of Seychelles Petroleum, while oil exploration is the responsibility of the Seychelles National Oil Company. Chutney. Culture. Seychellois society is essentially matriarchal. Mothers tend to be dominant in the household, controlling most expenditures and looking after the interests of the children. Unwed mothers are the societal norm, and the law requires fathers to support their children. Men are important for their earning ability, but the domestic role is relatively peripheral. Education. Until the mid-19th century, little formal education was available in Seychelles. The Catholic and Anglican churches opened mission schools in 1851. The Catholic mission later operated boys' and girls' secondary schools with religious brothers and nuns from abroad even after the government became responsible for them in 1944. A teacher training college opened in 1959, when the supply of locally trained teachers began to grow, and in short time many new schools were established. Since 1981, a system of free education has been in effect, requiring attendance by all children in grades 1 to 9, beginning at age 5. 90% of all children attend nursery school at age 4. The literacy rate for school-aged children rose to more than 90% by the late 1980s. Many older Seychellois had not been taught to read or write in the childhood. Adult education classes helped raise adult literacy from 60% to a claimed 100% in 2014. There are a total of 68 schools in Seychelles. The public school system consists of 23 creches, 25 primary schools and 13 secondary schools. They are located on Mayotte, Praslin, Le Digue and Silhouette. Additionally, there are 3 private schools: École Française, International School and the Independent School. All the private schools are on Mayotte, and the International School has a branch on Praslin. There are 7 post-secondary schools: the Seychelles Polytechnic School of Advanced Level Studies, Seychelles Tourism Academy, University of Seychelles Education, Seychelles Institute of Technology, Maritime Training Center, Seychelles Agricultural and Horticultural Training Center and the National Institute for Health and Social Studies. The administration launched plans to open a university in an attempt to slow down the brain drain that has occurred. University of Seychelles, initiated in conjunction with the University of London, opened on the 17th of September 2009 in 3 locations and offers qualifications from the University of London. Cuisine staple foods include fish, seafood and shellfish dishes, often accompanied with rice. Fish dishes are cooked in several ways, such as steamed, grilled, wrapped in banana leaves, baked, salted and smoked. Curry dishes with rice are also a significant aspect of the country's cuisine. Additional food staples include coconut, breadfruit, mangoes and cod onion fish. Dishes are often garnished with fresh flowers. Chicken dishes, such as chicken curry and coconut milk, coconut curry, dal, fish curry, saffron rice, fresh tropical fruits. Laddob is eaten either as a savory dish or as a dessert. The dessert version usually consists of ripe plantain and sweet potatoes boiled with coconut milk, sugar, nutmeg and vanilla in the form of a pod until the fruit is soft and the sauce is creamy. The savory dish usually includes salted fish, cooked in a similar fashion to the dessert version, with plantain, cassava and breadfruit, but with salt used in place of sugar. Shark chutney typically consists of boiled skinned shark, finely mashed, and cooked with squeezed bilimbi juice and lime. It is mixed with onion and spices, and the onion is fried and it is cooked in oil. Vegetables. Music. The music of Seychelles is diverse, a reflection of the fusion of cultures through its history. The folk music of the islands incorporates multiple influences in a syncretic fashion, including African rhythms, aesthetic and instrumentation, such as the zez and the bomb, European contredance, polka and mazurka, French folk and pop. Sega from Mauritius and Irkut Union, Tarab, Soukous and other Pan-African genres, and Polynesian, Indian and Arcadian music. A form of percussion music called kontumli is popular, as is maju, a fusion of native folk rhythms with Kenyan benga. Kotredans is popular, especially in district and school competitions during the annual festival Krol. Maju playing and dancing can often be seen at beach bazaars. The main languages of Seychelles were Creole of the French language, French and English. Media and telecommunications. The main daily newspaper is the Seychelles Nation, dedicated to local government views and current affairs and topics. Other political parties operate other papers such as Regard. Foreign newspapers and magazines are readily available in most bookshops and newsagents. The papers are mostly written in Seychelles Creole, French and English. The main television and radio network is operated by the Seychelles Broadcasting Corporation, which offers locally produced news and discussion programs in the Seychelles Creole language. Broadcasts run between 3 p.m. and 11:30 p.m. on weekdays and longer hours during the weekends. There are also imported English and French language television programs imported on Seychelles terrestrial television and international satellite television has grown rapidly in recent years. Sports. The most popular sport in the Seychelles is basketball, which has particularly developed in this decade. The country's national team qualified for the 2015 African Games, its greatest accomplishment to date. The team competed against some of the continent's largest countries such as Egypt,